What's up guys, welcome to Wasted Space, and today we're back in Space Engineers, and with something a little bit different. I dropped in on a friend of mine, Mac, who's here with us today.
Hello.
And yeah, he kind of has made a pretty amazing Space Engineers world, and unlike my approach, he's done a lot of mod-based decoration, a lot of really cool mod-based functionality, along with some pretty cool just basic ideas as well. So I thought you guys might enjoy us popping by and having a look around his world. And so he's going to come in and direct us around a bit and explain what it is he's done, what mods he's used and so on. So yeah, Mackle, I'm currently standing in, well, there's a medical bay and a control chamber, and it says Mac on the outside, I believe. So where should we go? Show us around.
Well, let's head past the orange container. I'll take you to the first hangar that I made, which is through the blue door. Now, I had no idea what I was doing when I first built this. As you can tell from the style of the ship, it's pretty ugly, but yeah, it was my first ship and I couldn't bring myself to destroy it. And I was originally testing out how the doors worked, kind of thing, and some of this is before the kind of button panels came along, and obviously the blast doors helped a lot to make this a lot easier to do. But I noticed when I built the thing that when I flew the ship out, which was really cool, when I came back in, I kind of had to turn around in this really tight spot. So I ended up being really lazy and building in a turntable, so I could literally turn the ship around. And obviously you can just, you know, carry on doing that. It just has a reverse facility going between 180 degrees.
Which button's that then?
It's the first button opens the door, and the second button rotates the turntable.
Oh, very cool. I just got to mention as well, sorry about the poor FPS, guys. For some reason, in certain areas of this base, my client hates it. It doesn't happen on Mac's side of things, so hopefully it won't happen for you guys either, but yeah, mine's less than happy in some areas. Well, that's pretty cool. Just a simple concept, but I can see where it came from.
Yeah, I mean, I was playing around with some things, and yeah, I mean, having got a little bit of a tour of some of the basics when I popped on into your game, I kind of came back here and I was just like, build. I just couldn't stop. So I started with that anyway.
These vending machines you got here, they, I assume, are a mod. What's that all about?
Well, that was another thing that I'm quite keen on when it comes to games in general. I like being able to break up some of the straight lines that some of these games have, which is nothing wrong with them. It's a mod called Hammerman Vending Machine Pack, by quite a prolific modder, Peter Hammerman, and basically I just wanted to add a bit of flavour. Like, I wanted the place to feel like it'd been lived in, kind of thing, as I was running around, rather than lots of straight lines, you know, a few colours and that kind of thing. So I you'll see a few of those things from different mod packs dotted around, just to give the place a bit of a lived-in feel, that you know, something extra to look at rather than just a flat wall or something like that.
Yeah, definitely, and it certainly breaks things up, and yeah, it makes it look a lot more natural and a lot more real than mine does. So where do we head from here?
If we head out back through the blue door, and then follow the yellow path to the left through the hydroponics wing, and this is a mod that's obviously to do with hydroponics, which is quite nice. Now, this was the second thing main thing that I built. There's a purple glass lift, and we don't have to use the lift, it does work, but this tower took me quite a few days to build. If you look upwards, you'll see that it's like 6 floors. Took a lot of effort, mostly to get the lift to actually go to the top without breaking everything. But this took me a little while. But if
yeah,
you go
I can
up,
imagine. And this path thing continues through the whole base, yeah, because I can see there's red and blue bits up there. And
I've generally got like as I was building things, I kind of coloured them. So most things that are green, for example, are to do with mining, or you know, where I have a yard where I break down ships, for example. That's green too. So it's kind of coloured in a certain way, and this tower just so happened to be coloured purple. So you know, any button panels that are associated with it are purple, things like that. But once I built the tower, if you come up to the second floor, which is marked with a lovely big orange 2, you'll see, if you have a look around just that floor before going anywhere else, you'll see that there's things like benches, things that look like servers, a desk, things like that, just to give it a bit more flavour, a bit of a lived-in feel.
This cinema is damn cool.
Yes, and this is my little cinema. This is an extra idea. This was never here in the tower. I actually added this on simply because I thought, you know, the tower, when I first built it, obviously, as you can imagine, it was literally a box that went up. It wasn't that amazing to look at, not particularly interesting, so I built a couple of wings off of it, and this is one of the wings. So there's obviously somewhere for refreshments, and obviously someone to sit down and watch Empire Strikes Back.
Of course, what else?
Now if we go back to where the lift is, and you go up to the next floor, you'll see a few other kind of items that are around as well. And there's a yellow path on the third floor. This is new too, and this comes out over the top of the cinema. There's some glass windows so you can look down and see people, and there's a living area just to the left here with a fairly nice view out of the window. And when we go through the airlocks that are just outside of that room, this is a walkway that kind of heads over the top of the base, and if you look out to the left as we cross this gangway, you'll see the size of the base. You know, we've only really covered part of it, but this walkway leads into a brand new hangar. But if you follow the yellow path across here and go up the stairs,
yep,
this
past
is the main
some crazy science experiments.
Yeah, yep. This is the main control center of the entire base. Now this is at the highest point, I think, of my base, and there's a warp core mod here. There's a mod that was done by Colt in here as well, which is all the kind of terminals and things like that. And he's got really nice parts in here. There's straight parts, there's curved parts, so you can make them fit into the side of walls, so it looks all really kind of smooth, and they're very well meshed together kind of thing. And they are interactable as well. You can, you know, set them up as button panels effectively. You can also use them in the same way you might a control station, so you can sit it and recharge and things like that.
Oh, very cool. This looks awesome.
Yeah, and you'll see, I mean, one of the things that I've tended to do that I quite like doing with mods is I tend to mix the packs. So there's the warp core, and there's a desk that's quite nearby it, that's kind of not around the edges but just away from it a little bit, and there's some kind of rusted looking pipes going to the top of the ceiling.
Yeah, the wiring, that's just what I was just looking at.
Now just in the warp core, the desk, those pipes, and the thing those pipes leads to, there's 4 different mods being used there, different elements from different packs. So I mean, the pipes are from the used equipment mod, for example, and I've kind of mixed them together to kind of give it a bit of a, I didn't want it to be too clean and too, you know, sparkly. I wanted it to feel a bit lived in and not quite, you know, all sophisticated and everything. You know, I wanted it to look kind of somewhat rustic.
It's just not clean. Yeah, no, it definitely does that.
So if we go back down the stairs, and it'll take us back to the yellow path. Now we don't want to go back across the gangway.
So
There's
down
some
these
stairs.
middle stairs here.
Yeah. Now, when we take the first flight down, we're going to go right, and we're heading towards a nice blue-coloured bay.
Yeah, and this is more of that colour theming, so that you know what everything is, basically.
Yeah. And then if you... Oh, hang on a sec. Yeah, if we take the stairs down again towards the red. And I've just realised I've not actually put a button in here to actually get through these doors. That's interesting. I thought I had. Hang on a minute. Brain fart moment. Okay. So where are we? You're at the red part, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm
Yeah,
all
indeed.
confused. Right, okay. Well, yeah. I've brought us in the wrong way.
Doesn't even know his own base, which I'm not surprised by when it's this big. God damn.
Well, you need to get through one of the doors because I've forgotten to add in a part. I normally come in here through the ground floor.
So we're heading outside.
Yeah, if you go back out and then
Out by the orange, yeah.
and then hang on, let me see. Yeah, go down the stairway from where the orange bay is all the way down the stairs on the outside. I tend to come in through this bottom part, and you'll see that there's some coloured paths on the ground. And if you, once you're in the hangar, you can look up and you'll see that the colours associate themselves with hangars. And each one of those hangars has got obviously a blast door and a ship behind it. This is kind of I wasn't entirely pleased with this. I might still change some of the colours because it is a little garish in here, but they've got kind of lights in there so I can see where I'm going. If I take out the green ship and are coming back, I can see where the hangar is and I know where I need to go, kind of thing. But this took a little while to build this, especially with the fire escapes, so you could close a blast door and get out. But obviously I didn't actually think about coming through the gangway because I don't tend to come that way.
Yeah, you tend to be coming in, not trying to get out on foot. Okay, it's pretty cool.
Now there's two hangars. There's two entrances to the hangars. There's one of them's facing towards space and the other one's facing towards some barrels.
Yeah. And the barrels are another mod, I assume, which again are doing a pretty nice job of breaking things up, making it look a bit more realistic. It's starting to look a bit like an Unreal Tournament map, actually.
Yeah, what's nice about these is that they kind of, apart from the flammable ones, the other ones come in 3 different types, and you can colour them. So you can, obviously rotate them and things like that, and you can colour them so they don't look the same. And obviously that's quite nice if you're wanting to have a little bit of a cargo yard or whatever you want to do. But when you come past those, heading towards the tarmac where the kind of road is, again this is another mod that's actually part of a Japanese city mod, where a guy had created a mod with trees and road signs and entire huge brick buildings. He's also done some pretty cool mods to do with hover bikes, if I remember right. But all of this kind of, there's little elements of his mods all the way around. But it gave me an opportunity when I saw the fact that he's got a road marking thing to actually make a car. And there's a dark blue button panel with only one button active, which you can click, and it'll open the garage door, and there's my little orange car in there.
Yeah, I saw this thing through the windows. This thing looks awesome. I don't know what it is about it that looks awesome. It just looks squat and mean. It looks like something out of Carmageddon, actually, is what it is.
Well, the one key thing that is a recent addition is that I put a handbrake on the side of it. So there is actually a landing foot there, which when you're in the car you can obviously switch the handbrake off, and then there's a rotor that brings it up and lowers the car onto the ground, because obviously when you switch the power off on the car without any power to handle the artificial mass, it will just float up. And I didn't really want to, you'll notice that the gravity is 3G here, for example. I didn't want to go like way too high, because obviously you wouldn't even be able to jump without dying. So I ended up fitting that handbrake so when the power was off in the car, that it wouldn't go floating off around inside here. Now, if we head over, there's some yellow paths, and there is a building that's on the left that's kind of grey with some blue lights on it. And there's a glass door that you can go through. This glass door is part of that Japanese city mod again, but the walls that are in here aren't. They're part of a separate mod. So you can see I'm always trying to mix the mods a little bit. And you'll notice that there's some elements of flooring that's different as well.
Yeah, definitely. I wouldn't have believed it was more than one mod, because it all looks very... I don't know, as I said, it looks like a map from a different game rather than Space Engineers. Space Engineers has a habit of looking a little bit bland, and you tend to put windows in stuff and colour it, and that's about the best you can do, aside from putting lights everywhere. So this is really cool. Just little touches that make it look kind of real.
Well, I think the thing is, I mean, what I tend to do when I'm making buildings is that, like, I might use a reasonable number of things from one mod, but then I might use just certain specific things from certain other mod packs just to add a bit of flavour to it. Because if it's all this grey wall, it will look very flat and uninteresting, although these walls are very cool and everything. But adding a little bit of flavour, like if you come into the first hangar where the kind of cargo carrying ship with the merge block on the back.
I was just looking at that, Mac. This is quite clearly a TIE fighter cockpit.
It is a TIE fighter cockpit, but it was interesting because I was actually able to develop a very sophisticated mining machine because of the fact that this thing was round. So you could actually be right in between all of the mining drills. But yeah, just as a concept for something else that I'm playing around with to do with delivering cargo for when they eventually do remote control stuff here. But the platform it stands on actually goes out into the into space through those doors. Those doors will open up and the thing will actually travel out there a little bit, because it was quite long for me to land in this it's not particularly high, this hangar. So I built a platform that actually goes out into space a little bit, so you can land it on that platform and then pull the platform in and then close the doors, kind of thing. And in the smaller hangar that's next to it, there's only one ship at the moment, an orange ship. I did have another one, but I destroyed it because it was pretty hideous. But again, this is playing around with just some of the cockpits and a fusion reactor. That's pretty cool. That's a mod 2. It's by quite a decent modder called Embershard. He's very, very good. He's got really quite a few really decent mods, and that's actually for small ships, large ships and stations, and it does pump out a reasonable amount of power. It takes a hell of a lot to make it for a station, for example, and I mean, like, 2,400 nuclear components, or whatever they're called, reactor components. So yeah, it's not an easy thing to make, especially when you're doing it in survival. So if we come out of there and go past our little cargo ship again, and then take a left when you go through the door.
No?
there's a pillar, and you're going to go
On
through
the
the
white path, yeah.
little tunnel, and you'll notice that this little tunnel that we just went through, this is another mod as well. I really like this because I've used this in a couple of places because it's got some really interesting corner parts to it. So again, it just adds a little bit of flavour. And now if you're at the end of that little tunnel, there should be a green door in front of you.
Alright.
And if you click on that, this is brand new as of yesterday. And this is my security office. Now if you go all the way to the end, there's a desk with a chair, and you can hit T to sit down on that, and you'll see, or you should see,
All the cameras, yeah.
and you can interact with each of those, and they're at specific places. It's only on my home base at the moment, they're not at any of the drilling platforms or anything yet, but I just put a few in just to see that it worked.
Cool, I don't want to look through those too far, I might spoil things. In fact, I already came across one room we've not seen yet. Cool.
So I go through the door next to it, and now we're starting to get outside into the base proper now. And probably the first thing to do is just take an immediate right and look up. There's again a recent thing, which is a kind of a space church, space temple type thing. I was wanting to use these blocks that we saw in a previous building differently, so I turned them vertically so the lines, the windows are going up, and it just looked like a kind of cathedral type thing to me. So I stuck a roof on it, and then if you go inside, there's pews, and there's a kind of an altar type thing. I don't know. And I was playing around with some of the other blocks that the Japanese city mod offers, some tiling, and there's a whole mixture of mods in here. I mean, there is even a little tea urn at the back of the church. That's all churches that I've ever been to always seem to have some rusty old tea urn at the back. But anyway,
This tea urn looks quite poisonous.
again, this is an element from the used equipment mod. Nothing else in this church is, but there's kind of mixtures of stuff. But there'll be a little door near the altar, following the red path, that will take you out. And if you take a right, you'll see a gigantic ship with the word Bob written on the side of it.
Uh-huh.
And this is, I had a previous passenger ship which I would built kind of as a kind of a tourist thing, had glass all over the top of it, but it was hideous. Whereas this one I prefer. There's a couple of things to note here. If you walk underneath it, you'll notice that obviously it's got feet that when it takes off will fold back inside the body. But you'll also notice that I've used some of those rusted pipes we were looking at earlier on the underside. So it looks a bit more connected up and linked up, and you know, rather than just flat lines, you know, that there's a bit of detail in there.
Yeah, not just the magic of blocks touching. There we go.
Yeah. Now, if you have a look at what looks like stairs and wings on the side of it, those actually raise up at an angle of roughly 45 degrees, and both of them will raise up at the same time. And so they look like wings when you're flying the ship, but when it lands, it lowers down. And then if you click the little button panel that's near the black lift, it will go up and meet that. I mean, what I've done here, I mean, I know a lot of people use their jetpacks, but I tend to like, because I obviously play mostly survival, I don't really want to have to be running backwards and forwards to a medi station all the time. So I spend a reasonable amount of time on foot and a reasonable amount of time with my jetpack. So I've built a few things here that if I've got energy to use my jetpack, I'll use it, and if I just want to stay on foot to conserve energy, then I'll use a lift. So there's a few things that have got like multiple access points, and
Yeah, I get you.
that lift is one of them, and it just touches just underneath, and then obviously you can run on board the ship if you wanted to and have a look around in there. There's a few things in there, some seats and some of the other bits and bobs that you've seen.
I think we'll save that for another video, perhaps.
Okay.
How about this big glass building?
Yes. Now, if you follow the blue path to where there's a kind of green obelisk with my main mining machine on the front of it, which I actually built up there just so I could find somewhere vaguely central to land it, and it dumps off the back all the way down into these two collectors down here. But yeah, let's go and have a look inside the biodome glass greenhouse thing. Go through the airlocks. Now this is a mixture of two main mods. There's quite a reasonable amount of it is elements of the Japanese city mod. So the shrubbery, the hedgerows, some of the grass, the moss blocks that we're actually walking on, some of the kind of soil blocks, and some of the soil blocks have got leaves on them too. They're from the Japanese mod. But a guy brought out a mod called Trees, which has 3 different types of trees in it, and a quite high definition grass block, which I haven't used here, but I've used the trees from the 2 different mods because one of them was a little bit low res than the other one, but the mixture of the 2 kind of made it feel a little bit more like nature is really. It's not regular, it's not, you know, there needs to be a bit of it shouldn't look straight and organized kind of thing. So I've tried to mix up those 2 mods, and the 2, as well as the work, you know, the 2 mods that these guys have done are obviously very different, but they complement each other quite well. And you'll notice I've sunk some of the trees into the ground, so they're effectively bushes, because for some reason there don't seem to be too many bush mods. There's trees or grass, and that's really about it. There's not many bushes kind of thing.
Yeah, it looks really good. You're looking at this from most angles, you wouldn't say it's Space Engineers. The whole modding thing is awesome.
Yeah, I mean they've done some really, really good work. I mean, what I particularly like about this, I mean this only recently got an extension like last night, and it's doubled in size, because I wanted an area where there's a kind of a picnic bench, kind of a bit of an organised area, and a bit more of a wilder area. But what's really nice about it is when you're flying in your ship or you're coming back with a whole load of ore, there's something really cool about the lights in here and the silhouette of the trees and stuff like that. And it breaks up the quite often straight lines that the game generally has. And that's not a bad thing, and these modders have obviously done a really, really great job with that.
Yeah, it looks amazing. All in all, I think the modding community with this game is only just starting to show what it's capable of as well.
Yeah, it seems like every time something new gets added to the game, like a whole plethora of mods come out, and I mean, imagination's one thing, but doing things that break up some of the straight lines. I mean, you will have probably noticed in there that the trees aren't regular shapes, well, especially when you rotate them. Some of them have got like a branch that might shoot off a little bit lower than the other ones, and so it breaks up the lines by not being too regular, whereas some of the early mods, particularly to do with trees, were literally as if you'd put as if it was out of Minecraft, you know, a small kind of brown bit with a slightly bigger green bit on top. It didn't look particularly tree-like, it was quite blocky, and obviously all it did was enhance the fact that you were looking at something blocky in the game anyway. So they're getting very sophisticated now, which is really nice.
Cool. Well, I've moved up to buy what looks to be a take on a modular ship, basically.
Yeah, well, this is one of the first experiments that I did really with it, and the little white craft is the kind of ship part, the kind of main ship, and it's got a connection to grinders and to a welder, and what turned out to be a really, really good drilling setup as well. That's the green modular part, and it's got some collectors there as well, and it's surprisingly good, even though it's obviously a very simple design at the front. I mean, took a little while to get enough ejectors on there, but it's, I don't know, that was probably maybe the fourth or fifth thing that I had to go at. The first one, I never saw that again, it disappeared off into space. But yeah. But if we go up the stairs, the black stairs, and then there's some more stairs going up onto a blue platform.
Yeah, I see you.
This is the main ship that I use to travel between like my outlying bases, because I've got 6 bases in all, based at different asteroids. And although sometimes you might see over there in the distance, back towards the glass gangway and the control tower, there's a ship called Icarus. I sometimes use that depending on how short I am of uranium. Icarus is literally just, well, it's a yellow ship, hence the mustard bit, and the Icarus bit is it's fully solar powered. Its wings are solar panels, for example, and so it sits there charging. And then if I suddenly think, oh God, you know, I've run out of uranium, then I've at least got something to go and get somewhere if I've really messed it up. But this little transport ship, the blue one, is named after Jimi Hendrix because he's awesome, and hence the reason why there's a bit of purple on it. And it's got another mod, well, it's got a few mods on it actually. The wings are mods, the engines are mods, provides a really nice amount of thrust. But what I like about these particular type of mods is that they might look cool and perform well, but they're not cheap to make. So it's not like you're getting everything and you don't have to try. You know, I like to have a bit of a challenge in a survival game. So they tend to be mostly aesthetic, the kind of mods that I go for. And this has obviously got, you know, landing gear on it, and also a connector depending on where I'm going. But you'll also see, if you look across to the kind of purple tower, there's a couple of things there to note. One is the big satellite dish, which is part of a collection of mods, voice arcs mods, if I remember right. And also you'll notice that my solar panels are significantly bigger than they actually are in the game, and that's another mod. There were 2 different versions of them. One is 25% stronger power that you get from them, but I mean they cost a hell of a lot to make, those big ones. And there's also a different version of that mod that's got corrected data and things like that, so it's a little bit more in keeping with the game. But I mean, at the moment this entire base is running on battery power, mostly because I've got quite a few of those up there and a reasonable battery stash. I suppose the final thing to probably have a look at is the first large ship that I built, which is Red Dwarf over here.
Yes, hard to miss that.
And it's not necessarily the prettiest ship, because a lot of the thrusters are on the outside and not particularly built into the body.
Well, the Dwarf never was it?
Not really, no. But it's got a Titan engine in it, which is a really good mod. It's got docking clamps, So there's a lot of things that are just in this one kind of little area that kind of add quite a lot to what you get with an already good game anyway. You know, it adds some. I mean, you would have. I mean, if you go to the bottom of that blue platform, for example, all the way down the stairs and follow the blue path part way, you'll see that there's some airlocks. And if you click on the airlocks, so we're going through the tunnel that leads into that clamp now.
Yep, I got you.
We're actually walking through 3 mods here. One of them is the doors, the airlocks is one thing, and then you've got the clamps, and then you've got the corridors as well. And when you reach the orange path, we're actually on board the red dwarf now. So it kind of feels a bit more realistic that, you know, you would be using airlocks, and it's fairly smooth to run through those things. And because the mods are so well done, that you can just run through something like that and you're not bumping over things and reaching the lips of things all the time.
No, that's amazing. That works really nicely. It looks awesome through there. It's like almost Kerbal Space Program-esque.
Yeah.
And now we're inside the dwarf, which looks cool, and it's got more of those same mods.
Yeah, and there's... Yeah, I mean, I kind of dotted a few things around, so there was some familiarity with things. There's a central lift in here, and a living quarters upstairs on the top floor. So there's a cooking area, and there's a sleeping area, and, you know, stuff like that. So, I mean, I tried to add in I wanted it to feel lived in, you know, a little bit, that it wasn't just, you know, lots of blocks and, wow, look at this kind of thing. That there was something a bit more to it. So, but of course the mods have helped mostly with being able to capture that side of things.
I like the fact that you've got the side of the engine open so you can see it as well. That looks awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's such a lovely engine, the Titan engine. I mean, it's massive, like absolutely huge, but it's such a nice design that I kind of felt a bit bad about just like enclosing it entirely in blocks. And also it was a little bit too big for this particular design of ship, being my first one. I didn't really want it being kind of like stuck on top, because I think it would look a little bit odd on this particular ship design.
Yeah, definitely.
So building a few windows in, couple of lights, you know, shows it off a little bit. I really like the cockpit up the front of the ship. I think that looks quite cool with the aerials and stuff. I was quite pleased with that. But again, this was the first one that I made, so this one was a little bit basic.
Basic, but still awesome, as is the whole base, honestly. Well, thank you for the tour around, Michael. It's muchly appreciated. Hopefully people enjoyed seeing around and getting a bit of a eye into your mind and the craziness that is all of this. Sorry again for the slight FPS troubles. As I said, give the map a try. It's not something that seems to plague Mac, so hopefully it's not something that will plague you. It's just something that my PC doesn't like much about this. And yeah, hopefully if you've enjoyed this stuff, we'll be back, because I know for a fact that the other 5 bases that Mac has dotted around this world are equally interesting, although in a slightly more functional way. But anyway, thanks a lot for showing us around, Macor. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
And thanks for watching, guys. If you enjoyed, hit that like button, hit that subscribe. Don't forget, this is up on the workshop. Macor's kindly uploaded it for us. Please check it out. If you like it, hit like on that. Leave some comments, some feedback. I know he'd really appreciate it, so give that thing a look. The link will be down in the description below the video. And thanks a lot for watching, guys. I'll see you next time.